This is the Franchise QB Podcast, where we empower entrepreneurs to win big in franchising. We huddle up weekly to educate our audience about the most successful small business model ever created, franchising.
Welcome to the Franchise QB Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Halpern, a 20-year industry veteran and entrepreneur. My mission is for listeners to achieve their American dreams of creating wealth and independence through franchise ownership. Every week, we speak with franchisees, franchisors, or vendors that support the industry. Thank you for joining us, and let's get started. Joining us in the huddle today is Daniel Garza, Chief Operating Officer of On the Move. Welcome to the show, Daniel.
Thanks for having me, Mike. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, it's great to see you. So you started with On the Move 7 years ago in a sales capacity and held 3 additional roles in the organization before being promoted to Chief Operating Officer. Tell us a little bit about your background, Daniel, and how you discovered On the Move.
Yeah, no, it was, I started actually, about 7, 8 years ago, and I started it On the Move actually as a marketing intern.
Okay.
And whenever I started as that marketing intern, it really allowed me to go to trade shows and start kind of understanding a lot more about the industries that we served. And then from there, I went and became a sales intern, and then went into sales and, project and research coordinator. I've been all over within the company. And so as I kind of progressed within my education of our industries and kind of went backpedaled into trying to figure out exactly what was going to be the right field for me, operations has kind of seemed to suit it.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's interesting. When I started my career, before I got into franchising, I started in a marketing role, and then quickly I said, wait a second, in the sales side, I can apply those marketing techniques, but I can actually earn a better living. And that was what kind of sprung my career into franchise development. So for those that are unfamiliar, tell us, what is On the Move? Like, tell us a little bit about what the concept is overall.
Concept for On the Move is very simple. We're a commercial leasing company, and we try and specialize in turnkey solutions for any commercial vehicle needs. Now, as far as that goes, we can supply the vehicles, the equipment, the graphics. We can supply the insurance coverage that depending on what you're looking for and what your needs are, and just one-stop shop. It really just depends on whatever somebody is wanting.
Yeah, we'll get into the details here in a bit, but I can imagine you guys are super busy because ever since pandemic, like, home services have been exploding, and that's a segment of franchising I want to touch on. So I
Absolutely.
did notice that On the Move is not a new company. It was founded in the early 90s. It's been operating for over 30 years. Tell us a little bit about the company's history.
Yeah, absolutely. So we started about 32 years ago in the 90s. Our founder, Maury Westerdale, he was a engineer over at Ford for like 30 years, and he has a lot of different patents that he helped them out with. And after he got into his retirement, he started buying self-storage facilities. And whenever he was at those self-storage facilities, he wanted to utilize, companies like U-Haul or Penske, these rental companies. And he saw the box trucks, but he asked them, he went and said, hey, like, I want to be able to put my own brand for my storage facility on those trucks. They declined and said, no, it has to be U-Haul, Penske. And he says, well, fine, I'm just going to create my own. And he started putting his own trucks at the facilities with his branded vehicles. And once that really caught on, he started to see such a huge need for that he ended up selling the storage facilities and just starting On the Move and just focusing on the branded moving trucks. And for like, I don't know, 10 years, 20 years, we were really just more in the self-storage. And then that moved over to realtors. Then that's moved into home services, and then just kind of morphed into the franchise, just finding all these new industries all the time. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that because you and I met last year at a franchise conference. So On the Move is obviously
I
breaking
wasn't
into
even
the
supposed to go
space.
to that. It was like a last second thing too. It's kismet. And then you and I met in the hallway.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm glad we did, and comes full circle. So when did you guys get into home services, and then how did you find the franchise space?
Oh man. The home services, because we have different properties and stuff, and our headquarters here, we've got about 20 slots outside where we used to have like a used dealer lot, kind of just some vehicles from the auctions and everything. But about 4 or 5 years ago, I was like, look, why don't we take commercial vans, since we are a commercial leasing company and we just ship nationwide, but those are out of different lots. and let's actually start putting vans and box trucks out there so people know what we do. It just kind of goes along with the branding messaging. And I mean, within, I'd say a month, people just started coming by and just being like, hey, like, what is that? Can you do this? Can you do that? And the next thing we knew, we were already knee deep in it. And the franchising, we were actually leasing to franchises without even knowing that we were leasing to franchises. I honestly felt like kind of an idiot. I was like, man, we just did this plumbing company in San Antonio, and now they just opened another one in Phoenix. These guys are growing like crazy. And they're just like,
So obviously,
no,
like
they're
you guys
franchises.
clearly probably started out servicing independent businesses that had a need, and then all of a sudden you realize, wait a second, we're actually servicing franchisees as well. So the
Yeah.
cool thing for you guys is you can get in at the franchisor level as a preferred vendor and help all the franchise owners, or obviously like individual franchise owners can find you guys as well.
Yeah, it's kind of gone well, and with everything. I mean, so with the franchisors, yes, come in, and especially some of the stuff that we're doing that we can go into as far as how we are structuring the leases that are going to be advantageous for their franchisees and then the franchisees as well. And then also with franchise consultants, we've started working with a lot of franchise consultants to kind of be that arsenal that they have when they're going and talking with these franchisors to already have, like, try and direct their customers the best way. Because whether or not somebody wants to finance or lease is going to be up to them and how they're going to be wanting to handle stuff from more of like an accounting and business
Mhm.
management. And we stay away from advising stuff like that. It's just like, hey, talk to your CPA. But if you're wanting to go leasing, you know, let's at least give you, some numbers and we can kind of have a conversation about it.
Yeah, no, you raised a really good point. Like I've been a franchise consultant my whole career and I love putting together a team, whether it be for helping my clients with funding or with legal review or with whatever it might be. In this case, like commercial leasing, it's just great to have another arrow in my quiver to kind of guide my clients and build the credibility and trust and like connect them with great people and great companies that are going to help them out. So I can see how that would relate to my business. For the audience listening, you mentioned commercial leasing. That's what you do. So can you explain kind of in layman terms the difference between commercial leasing versus financing? And what are some of the advantages for franchise owners specific?
Well, once again, it's going to be how you're setting up your company and your books within your accounting. But when it comes to financing, just like if you go over to a dealership and you're going to fund it through a bank or get a loan, it's all going towards that debt, and that's going to go towards your borrowing, everything. Once again, that's just financing. But whenever you got to go into leasing, the main thing is that people have this stigma of leasing because they're so used to hearing about it on a personal level when you're going to a dealership instead of a commercial leasing. Because when
Mhm.
you're doing commercial leasing, this is now for your business, and there's going to be a lot of tax advantages when you go into that. Now, one of the main things that I'd say is different when it goes into the financing, and I mean, it really comes down to depreciation. I think that's if you want to be able to depreciate it over a couple years, or if you want to keep it going through that monthly track lease, it is going to be 100% again up to you. We have a lot of different customers with huge portfolios, and I've got one that'll tell me as a business owner, and I mean, he probably has around like 50 vehicles with us, multiple states, multiple locations. And in his mind, he as a business owner never wants to own a depreciating asset. And obviously a vehicle is depreciating. He says, if I'm going to own something, I want it to be appreciating.
That makes
If
sense.
not, then I make it a marketing or business expense and write it off.
Yeah. So, Daniel, you mentioned a track lease. And for those that are unfamiliar with it, what is the difference between a track lease and a traditional lease?
The main thing right there is just, in simplest terms, unlimited mileage. So if you're in home services, you can, and your vehicle is basically your office, you cannot be worrying about miles.
Hmm.
Most of our clients are putting roughly 20 to 30,000 a year if you're going to be in, I mean, you want the vehicle on the road as much as possible.
Yeah. That's how
So
you're
you
producing
can't
revenue.
worry about that. And I mean, I deal with that all the time. I have so many people, especially at trade shows when I'm talking to them, round tables. I just got back from a round table I was doing where people were, well, we don't like this because of this. And I'm like, well, that's not what commercial track lease is. And it's not just something that's just to us. I mean, you can go to any dealership and talk about commercial track leasing. It just depends on what they're able to do. But that unlimited mileage is huge.
Yeah. I mean, you want to have the financial structure of the lease compatible with what makes your business tick, right? Like you don't want to limit mileage because that's the thing that makes your business work. So when they're in alignment, I can see that that's a much better deal for the owner.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about at the high level with franchisors. How does On the Move help franchisors? Do you have a program where you say, "Hey, look, let's be a strategic partner of yours, and here's how we're going to come in and help your owners"?
Absolutely. So obviously we have a network nationwide with the different vehicles, the different upfitters. But what I've learned within franchising and dealing with the franchisors is that they already basically have all that mapped out as far as, especially with the equipment. They know, I mean, the ones that I really like dealing with are the ones that have it so meticulous. Like, hey, it's got to be this and this. I mean, because whenever you let them stray, sometimes that can make the process a lot longer. Instead of just saying, "Hey, I want a ProMat for this," you've got to have two ProMaster 2500s with a Ranger shelving, ladder racks, this and that, and they just have it perfectly mapped out. But they also usually, when they have that much detail, already have their vendors. And so we offer two options when it comes to that. One, we can either do all of the sourcing for you and put it all together, or two, we can just go through all of your vendors and buy it and lease it to your franchisees. We don't fight either way. We're not trying to push either way. We're very transparent about what our margins are and where we make money. And we actually put it on the quotes for anyone who sees it whenever we do our quotes. So I think once we've started doing that and like it's really more of a service, then that alleviates a lot of those worries and they just realize, okay, excellent. Like I see what you're doing. And it just has that transparency and that honesty. And it just really has started to help out with the franchisors putting that together and then telling them that we aren't going to, I mean, let's say one of these equipment is $20,000 upfit, which most of our franchise clients, I mean, it's going to be $10,000 to $20,000 upfit in home service. Well, they don't have to come out of pocket for that. Uh, we can capitalize that into the lease, which you can do elsewhere as well. But the one thing that we've started doing is also capitalizing the graphics and the wrap into the lease. That's going to be pretty difficult to do with financing because the banks aren't going to be, that adds no value to the vehicle at all. So usually you're going to have to come out of pocket for that. There are exceptions, don't get me wrong. You might be able to find some dealerships depending on your relationships with them, but for the most part, that holds no value to the vehicle. We know that if it's going to be about 5 or 6 grand for the wrap, and they also have to do first and last, and they got to sometimes pay some taxes, or I mean, you can be coming out 15, 20 grand per vehicle easy. And
Got
so
it.
when we capitalize all that in, it's really just to help everybody out and kind of get them going.
So, Daniel, how does On the Move help franchise owners? I know we discussed kind of how it works in the hierarchy in terms of the franchisor, but if you're an individual franchise owner, how does that benefit you?
So if you're the actual franchisee, and
Mhm.
so we're talking, just making sure I'm on. Okay. So when we're talking about the franchisee, the franchise owner, man, there's so many. It's kind of hard to even put it into just like a term of how we're able to help. I think going in and
I mean, is it really the turnkey nature of it? How you guys are like a one-stop shop and you just
yeah, I
handle it
mean, like
all?
that's really, I think you don't have to worry about anything. You're not needing to source. I think the best way to say it is that you went and found a franchise instead of starting your own because you wanted something that was already built and worked that you could trust. And it's supposed to be, I mean, a franchise, as far as I could always be wrong, but from what I've seen thus far, when you're going into a franchise, you're supposed to be buying into a turnkey solution.
Business in a
So this
box,
just,
turnkey, exactly.
yeah.
Yep.
And this is just follows that step. You don't want to get into a franchise and then have to go and figure out this and that. I mean, it's just right there. It's all there. And I mean, whether or not you need the insurance, you need the upfit, the graphics, all of it's just taken care of for you.
Yeah. So I had a question for you. I know that it's kind of a big deal that your program allows for lease assumptions because the whole point of being a business owner is giving you flexibility. And part of that flexibility is at some point you might want to exit, right? Leave the business, sell it, move on to something else, retire, whatever it might be. Your program allows for lease assumptions where sometimes it can be problematic for the franchise owner that's exiting. Can you talk a little bit about how you allow for these lease assumptions?
Yeah. I mean, that happens almost on a daily basis. Uh, it's not just about the franchises, but it's just any business, like you're saying, they are going to like sell whatever. But I have the franchise owners and the franchisors, they'll call and say, "Hey, this guy's selling a territory. This lady's doing, they're getting out. They're going to be expanding or something, and they want to go ahead, but they're going to have to go through the financing arm or that leasing arm that they've already done, so can you buy that out? And so that ends up becoming a problem because now you're buying it out at that inflated price with the buyout, like the LEV at the end. And so we're not really able to do that. And so whoever's buying that territory with that vehicle, for one, it's kind of like the housing market right now. Everybody's still wanting to pay those, they want those COVID prices, but rates aren't at 3%. Rates are right now at 6.5%. So it's kind of puts you into that stalemate where you're going to have to now buy this territory with the vehicle at an inflated price, and the franchisor that's wanting to sell the territory isn't wanting to let go of it without that vehicle. So you're already going to be paying. I mean, we're talking almost like $20,000 more than probably what you should be. I had a situation recently where a franchise was wanting to buy a territory, but it had to come with the vehicle that the franchise owner was doing it. And I said, I can't do that because we can get you a vehicle that's brand new for the exact same price because of just how they bought it and everything that was going on. I said, but can't they just do a lease assumption? They said, no, we're not allowed to do that. And so our program
Your
really,
program gives more freedoms to the franchise owner to be able to kind of go forward with that exit and not
yeah,
be an impediment to the sale.
yeah, it just makes it smooth. All they got to do is just like, let's say you're going to sell the territory, whoever's going to be doing it, they just need to do a new credit app, and then they sign the new lease agreement and the payments just get transferred right over to them.
Love it. That is frictionless, and that's a big benefit. So let's talk about insurance, right? Like that's a big deal when you talk about a commercial fleet. Do you guys get involved in the insurance side at all?
We do. Yeah. We have an on the move insurance agency. And so that is a separate entity, but it does back up on the move for certain times. And so we can have them broker the commercial auto. And that's something that we're also getting in, starting to develop those types of relationships. And so a lot of the franchises that we deal with, they already have some preferred vendors, totally fine. But hey, if you need it, we're here for it. But I will tell you the one thing that we have that nobody has within the franchise community, and I honestly think it's going to end up being huge as we start getting more of these relationships together, is we have what we call the insurance license program. And we already have a couple thousand vehicles on this policy to where you're allowed to rent the vehicle to the public. And so you're like anyone underneath your W-2 is going to be able to be covered, but then they can also rent it out. And we have a lot of, any self-storage facility, all of them, if you see they've got a, rent it out to the public. If it's not a U-Haul, for the most part, if you see a self-storage facility and it's not a U-Haul or a Penske and it has like a branded moving truck, it's probably ours. And then they're able to rent it out to the public. Well, when you go sign those rental agreements, that's our insurance license program that's allowing them to be able to do it. And something I've noticed within the franchise home service network, I mean, if these vehicles go down, then they're out a lot of money. I mean, this is their livelihood. They have to be on the road. And if your vehicle's out for 2 weeks because of something, then that's money out of your pocket. And so what I'm trying to get with these franchisors is to start, I understand that maybe like they had said demos aren't really working. I was like, okay, but now you're being able to rent it out. So let's build 2 or 3 for the franchise to actually own, and they lease from us. And then they're allowed to rent it out to anybody if they're having problems and their vehicles are off the road. They could also rent it out to the franchisees if their vehicles are being built. Some of these take a while to be built, and they can just always have that out and have it kind of going out. It can be a lot of different ways to make revenue from it, but I think that there's something to being able to rent it out to other franchisees that could be quite beneficial.
Yeah, it just seems like you're adding options, and options is good in this business because you need the vehicles on the road, especially if it's the lifeblood of your business model. Like some have like a hybrid model where they have like a retail component and they have the vehicles, but some of them, a lot of them that my clients invest in are non-brick and mortar. So when their vehicles aren't working, they're not producing, they're not going
Absolutely.
to appointments, they're not generating revenue and kind of making their business better. Let's talk about what you've seen because you work in so many different industries. What are some of the trends that you've seen, maybe specifically in the home services space?
I have been seeing trends within the home service space that actually I see it growing. I see so much confidence right now within the home service space because, as far as they're concerned, it's the only thing that can't be replaced by AI or robots for the foreseeable future. There's
I hear that a
obviously going to
lot.
be something that comes in, but I mean, we deal with a lot of industries, and a lot of those, I mean, they're scared. A lot of these industries that we deal with, I mean, a lot of them are we going to be around in 5 years? Is that going to be something in 6 years? Well, when it comes to plumbing, when it comes to AC, I mean, all these different trades, maybe down the line, but I don't really see, I mean, they all feel very confident for at least the next decade that they've got jobs.
Yeah, no, I get it. That's a question that comes up all the time. It's like, is it Amazon proof? Is it AI proof? Is it essential services?
Yeah,
And, the vehicles that you're upfitting and leasing check a lot of those boxes. This has been great, Daniel. Anything else that you want to add to the mix before we wrap up today?
absolutely. I mean, just if anybody's looking for any help, we are here with our offerings and would love to assist.
Awesome. Well, if anyone listening would like to connect with Daniel and his team at On the Move to learn more about commercial leasing options, contact me at franchiseqb.com and I'll get you connected. Daniel, thank you so much for taking the time to get in the huddle with us today.
Appreciate it, Mike. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Franchise QB podcast, where you're at the helm of your future as a franchise owner. If you enjoyed the content, please rate the show and recommend it to anyone that might be interested in franchising. Make sure to visit franchiseqb.com to subscribe to my newsletter and for an actionable playbook to go from walk-on to legend in your new business. Follow us on Twitter at QB and join us every week for a new episode. See you next time.
Visit franchiseqb.com to take the next step of your journey towards wealth, independence, and franchise ownership. And remember, when working for the man gets old, you must do something bold. Thank you for listening.